I think it's time we talk about last night.
Hold on. I gotta say, on the later episode of Set Velocity, I said PJ Tucker locked up KD last game, and he did. And Easy Money Sniper did not like my comments, so I motivated him to go out and clap them the you know what's last night.
You know,
KD Trey 5 Easy Money Sniper, as I've been saying since 2014, is the best pure scorer of this era and could arguably be the best scorer of all time. But in addition to that, my man was dishing out assists, facilitating, and rebounding as well. Like he had, was it 20 rebounds or I know it was close to it. Like it's insane.
I think that might be the best performance I have ever seen by a player in my lifetime, and that is saying
It's up
something.
there.
I mean,
It's up there.
what
Yeah.
I've been on this planet for 23 years, and they did I think ESPN did a grading system, and he ranked the highest for any performance, like over Michael Jordan or anyone else in a single game.
The one that comes to mind to me to challenge that, because I'm sure they're also considering, like, because it was a win, it gets valued over some others. But I was actually thinking back to even Kawhi's performance against Philly, like that one game where he had like a 40 point and like some crazy rebounds. So I was considering that. Even Allen Iverson, the one game he took from the Lakers in the finals.
I think, and I think with the whole Nets performance too. I mean, yeah,
Oh yeah,
we're talking about Kevin Durant mainly here, but I do think as bad as James Harden looked playing wise, I think that he was a really good distraction for Kevin Durant to be able to score those
yeah,
points, and a good
yeah,
facilitator still.
yeah, for sure. I don't care. Like I know if I'm on the court, I don't care if Harden is 0 for 100. I'm still. I
You
know
just want the
he's
win.
he's eventually going to make a shot.
Yeah.
Even if he does that, I'm not leaving him open.
And I was watching, like I watched the game and I watched all the highlights after too, the next today, and I mean Kevin Durant was getting guarded by everyone. So like every shot I was seeing, I mean PJ Tucker, he was shooting it in PJ Tucker's face, making it. He was shooting it in Chris Middleton's face, making it. Didn't matter. And now they're talking about Giannis potentially wanting the challenge of guarding him in Game 6. So I think that could
Yeah,
be interesting.
and I got to call you out on that. Your boy, he's won two back-to-back Defensive Player of the Years, right? I I understand if earlier on in the game he's not covering him because mismatches happen or like you don't want to
You don't
because of
want to get too many
offense. But in
fouls either.
that fourth quarter when it comes time to close out, he has to be the one sticking KD. I don't care if KD is making is still is hot or whatever. Giannis can contest him better than anyone out
He's got
there.
the long
He has the
arms.
build for it.
Yeah.
He had the build for it and the defensive ability to challenge him. Giannis has to stick him at the end of games. If he scores on you, oh well, what can you do? But you have to be guarding him, Giannis.
Yeah, and I think I mean that was such like we could talk about how great Kevin Durant played this entire time, and I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. But I think that was such a horrible game to lose for the Bucks. I mean, you were up
Yep.
18 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and you wasted two really good performances. Chris Middleton and Giannis both played really well, but Giannis had the ball slip out of his fingers at the end of the game too, and that's a big turnover. I mean, there's just so many stupid, silly mistakes at the end of the game that were just causing a bigger or a smaller margin that ended up being a loss, which no one anticipated through three quarters. It's detrimental. I don't think you can come back for it because now you're going to Brooklyn for Game 6. Or wait, no, I'm sorry, you're going to Milwaukee for
No,
Game
they're going
6.
to
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
yeah,
I think they'll get that
yeah.
one. I think they'll get that one.
I
But
think it
I but
depends on
I
how good
did
James
predict
Harden
that
is.
Harden. I did predict that Harden was going to be back for that game though. The moment Kyrie went down, I said, I bet you this is just a substitution. Harden is gonna reel back in.
I just don't
I knew it.
understand because they were both officially ruled out the day before and most of the day of, and then at the very last second, James Harden decided he was going to play. So it seemed like it wasn't planned.
Part of me wonders like because this was revealed like specifically with Utah, and maybe it was a little tug of war with the medical staff, like in the
Yeah.
on the team because apparently they have a stronger voice or more influence than we think. Because remember, I think it was game one against Memphis. Donovan Mitchell wanted to go out to play, but the medical staff was adamant and like I guess they told the coach and stuff, told him no, he cannot play. So in the end, they didn't let him play.
Or maybe it's like in terms of baseball, where they say one pitcher is going to be pitching the next day, and then one pitch in, they switch out the pitcher just to throw everyone off. So maybe they were just telling everyone he wasn't playing and had all these plans to have him play at the last second just to throw off the matchups.
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll never know. But I mean, at least we know that Kevin Durant's by far the best player in the playoffs, and I think
Yep.
everybody reminded him. I think everybody was reminded that Kevin Durant is the best player in the world, and
Arguably, I will give him that. Arguably, but I'll say
uh,
right now in this moment, definitely in the playoff. First of all, I don't know who everybody is. Me, I was never one of them saying that KD was gonna fall off the cliff from that injury. I figured if anything, maybe he won't necessarily be like one like perfectly 100%, but I know he will still definitely
I
be in that at the top caliber in the game.
I
Now, my reservations for KD is obviously dependent on what's it called when LeBron come back next year, how he looks when he's fully healed and rested. Then I will give it to him then. But we got to also remember this too. I think people forget about this because we're all looking at LeBron's age because he is older than Kevin Durant, but he has 3 years on him. Kevin Durant's not that far behind him.
no,
So who knows when he'll start declining too? And then these young guys are moving up.
but
So, but I still think he's gonna have. I think he's gonna last for a while.
I do think we're starting to shift towards the time where LeBron is starting to have to deal with father time, and I think that it's going to
Yeah.
deteriorate his play over the next few years. But I think we're starting to see a shift to Kevin Durant being the best player in the league, and I thought we were going to see that shift before he tore his Achilles a year and a half, 2 years ago. But now that he's back, he's able to do that, and I think a lot of people didn't think that he was going to be. A way worse player or anything, but a lot of people just didn't recognize him as the best player. Um, until like he would have constant 25 30 point performances throughout this year, but everyone's like, oh, he's top 2 or 3, but now I think people are starting to get the memo
I-
after last night's
I'm
performance.
well, we can also acknowledge this too. A big part of that because last year, LeBron's playoff run. So, and it was the first, and before that, we didn't see LeBron at all in the playoff because he wasn't there. Because it was the first time we saw him get injured, and then again we had a question mark. Oh, this father time will he be back? And then all that noise, Kawhi Leonard and Giannis, best players in the game, and then LeBron took the crown. And then I think people are saying, all right, now if in a sense, let's say the Lakers didn't go all the way or they had lost to the Clippers, I'm sure that they would have officially crowned Kawhi. But since they folded, whatever, and like the Lakers won the championship, that's why LeBron like once again validated as the best player. So I feel like they were probably going to do the same thing with KD this year. Like let's say the Lakers and Nets met in the finals, I feel like that would have been the thing too. Like if
Yeah,
KD did win, then he would have been crowned.
and I think the last episode we talked about, I'm pretty sure I said that Kawhi and Kevin Durant were on very close levels, and unfortunately, we won't get to see that for the rest of the playoffs because now we don't know what Kawhi would do because it's suspected that he tore his ACL. So I would have. I think it's unlikely that it would have been the Clippers versus the Nets, but seeing Paul George and Kawhi versus like Durant and James Harden, Kyrie would have definitely been a fun matchup. But I think the Clippers' chances of going anywhere are now out of the window without Kawhi Leonard.
Hmm. But let me ask you this: let's say the Bucks do pull through and win this series, would you rank Giannis over KD?
No, not yet. I think that Chris Middleton deserves a lot of credit still. And I
Mhm.
think that right now it's still 2 stars versus one. That's not anything against Harden. It's just Harden is not playing like an all star right now because he was hurt. So
Yeah.
until I see he's at top form, then I'm going to say it's still 2 stars versus one. And I think the Bucks still should have the edge right now, but they They played like it yesterday until the final quarter. But however, if I see two games from Giannis in these next two games where he's dropping 40 plus both games, I think that he definitely will deserve more recognition. Top three or four. But I'm not calling him better than Kevin Durant.
Sorry, you froze for a sec on my screen. But oh, can you repeat the last part of what you said?
I think that if Giannis scores 35 to 40 plus in the next two
Mm-hmm.
games and they win both games, then we can
Mm-hmm.
definitely make a debate that he's still in the top three because I think, ever since his MVP year, everyone had him in the top three during the MVP year. But like ever since that, there
I
was
never did.
most people.
Yeah,
But ever since the last year or two, before after the MVP performance, he's kind of, I wouldn't say declined, but he's kind of stabilized at a. He hasn't gotten better necessarily. So like people were hoping to see more since he's young and he was going to be developing more. But
yeah,
um, I think that you could definitely put him back in the top three or four conversation if he wins these next two games and eliminates the Nets, because that would be huge. Regardless if it's just Kevin Durant and a an injured James Harden, it's still a big win.
yeah. But in a way, like I heard them bring it up on ESPN. That scenario could actually be somewhat comparable to like the 2015 finals. Look, when Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt, LeBron and the Cavs were taking on the Warriors
Yeah,
that year. I think it would be a comparable scenario
yeah.
for KD.
But I don't think there's any way that Giannis is going to be better than KD based off of anything he does in this series. I don't think it's possible. Because
Yeah,
I mean, if you just line up who each player is, James or not James Harden, Giannis is 1 to 2 dimensional, where Kevin Durant is multi-dimensional in every facet of the game. So I think they're completely different players, but Kevin Durant has the edge in almost every category, especially his shooting. So I don't think that Giannis is allowed to be in that conversation yet.
and that's exactly why. So you could date me back to 2014. That I've always had said there was always LeBron and KD, and then everybody else under them where you want to rank them in top five. They're
I
in a class of their own.
I am going to slightly disagree. I think that LeBron, KD, and Kawhi are all in the class of their own. No one else. I think those
Yeah,
three, because Kawhi also brings the defense, a way better
yeah,
defense. I won't say over LeBron necessarily, because he's also getting older, so defense is going to be
yeah,
a little bit more difficult. But he was
yeah,
always a
yeah.
great
But
defender. Yeah,
yeah, we know LeBron back in
yeah.
Miami. That was a defensive
But
monster.
like we know Kawhi is probably the best defender of the three. He
Yeah.
definitely is now at least. So I definitely put those three in their own threshold versus the rest of the league.
Well, actually, I will actually contend that at their best, I think Anthony Davis and Kawhi are very comparable on both ends of the floor because I think we can make our valid arguments that within recent years, Anthony Davis has been a better defensive player in the league than Kawhi.
I think that Anthony Davis makes sometimes better defensive plays, but Kawhi's offense makes up for that against Anthony Davis.
I don't think Kawhi's a better offensive player than Anthony Davis. I really don't
Well,
think
he
so.
hasn't been on the floor to prove that, so
Yeah, well, I'm saying I said when Anthony Davis playing at his best, like obviously, like this year, but I'm saying at their best,
I
I definitely think Anthony Davis better offensive player than Kawhi. I give Kawhi the edge. I said in recent years, I think Anthony Davis had been playing better defense than Kawhi, but I give Kawhi the edge. But I think Anthony Davis' defense is comparable to Kawhi's.
I
But he's at the big man spot because he has extreme versatility defensively.
I just think that Kawhi can do more on offense. I'm not saying that Anthony Davis isn't a good on offense. I just think that Kawhi can do more on offense.
Well, the thing is that Kawhi he plays more like a perimeter player, like almost like let's say like LeBron and KD. The point forward role. Like he can handle the ball face up more than AD. AD playing down on the post, like it's just an opposing style of play because he's a big man. But I think I will say this. I'll say Honestly, I don't even know. With their passing abilities, maybe I'll get the edge to Kawhi. But again, it's a similar thing. Kawhi passing in the perimeter versus Anthony Davis in the post, but
Yeah.
neither of them are like special passes. But as a pure scorer, I would take Anthony Davis over Kawhi.
I'm just saying both at their top, I'm taking Kawhi. But that is a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. But remember, I said I have those two in a class. I said I would take Anthony Davis. I don't think Anthony Davis is way better than Kawhi. Like even over the past year, when both of us have, I know you were a big fan of Anthony Davis. I don't know if you still are, but
I like
but
him.
even back then, I thought Anthony Davis and Kawhi like were around the same ballpark.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he's way better than Kawhi. I'm saying in terms of my preference of what I see from him, I think he's a more valuable all around weapon because I'm taking into account his rebounding abilities, and which Kawhi also does have. But I think the impact that we see Anthony Davis having down low on the block, I don't know. He's a special all. I think he's a special all around talent.
We'll leave it to the polls on Instagram.
Yeah. All
Um,
right.
you got
We
anything
also
else
never
to
saw.
add?
Yeah, we never saw Anthony Davis fold like Kawhi did.
Okay, we never saw Anthony Davis step up like Kawhi did either.
We've only seen Anthony Davis lose to the Warriors in the playoffs as the number one option.
I guarantee you when we ask the polls later today that
Yeah, they'll probably say Kawhi. I mean, when you get to play reserve role behind Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, when you have no expectations in your career until you stepped on the Clippers. I mean, the stars aligned for you in Toronto.
all
I
the
mean,
stars align.
yeah. I mean, Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson getting hurt.
He still had to bury a couple teams with a deep three-pointer to eliminate them at the last second.
Yeah, the team that you said that chokes consistently in the playoffs.
They do.
All right. And did Embiid not choke?
He showed up.
For one game, that
Yeah.
one game where he was smiling, laughing at the crowd. You know how I react when I saw that? I was mad, kind of saying, I know he's gonna be garbage the next game. And what
And then he got
happened?
sent home crying.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad we talked about KD, and I cannot wait till Game 6. I am going to predict now that the Bucks win Game 6, like you said. I believe you said the same thing. And I'm
Hmm.
going to predict that Giannis has a 40-point game. I don't think it'll be anywhere near in line to what Kevin Durant did last night, but I'm going to say he's going to have a 40-point game because I think he's angry and I think he wants to prove something. He already
All
admitted,
I
though,
know,
that Kevin Durant's the best player in the world.
yeah, Giannis is fickle as a pickle. He said the same thing about LeBron at some point too. But anyway, I don't know why Giannis is saying that. But let's that aside, I'm focused on the Sixers game tonight. We are winning this game. We're gonna get our third win.
Yeah, let's see if they blow that 18-point lead again. All right.
Never.
Well, we will see you all later. Follow us on Instagram. We got a bunch of posts. We're going to do a couple polls too because we need to prove points to each other. That's going to matter. So, without further ado, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the playoffs, and we will catch you for the weekly podcast.